After my recent video covering the events that take place in Ben 10 Omniverse, I wanted to go into a series I was less familiar with, or specifically a video going completely blind to something Ben 10 related, given my first impressions. Ben 10 Destroy All Aliens is a completely CGI film that continues the story of the classic series. That was for whatever reason released after Alien Force and Ultimate Alien wrapped up, but before the release of Omniverse. I have to say, on paper that just sounds amazing to me, a return to form for this series really focusing on the established lore of classic before the events of Alien Force, in the form of a new feature-length film with a returning cast of voice actors. I just think everything about that just sounds fantastic. With returning to that nostalgic feeling of classic 4 years after the series ended, re-establishing interest in the classic series with a fresh new take. In saying that, I never saw much promotional material prior to the release, including the promotional short release for the film. Being Australian, I don't think we really had much of a market push for that, but it just never really crossed my radar. And after the release, I never really heard anything about it. In all honesty, the reason I hadn't checked it out up until this point was purely the visuals. Had this been animated in the style of classic or even Alien Force, I'm sure I would have jumped onto it the moment it had been released. Beyond that, if it had been animated in the style of classic or Alien Force, I think it would have absolutely been beloved by the fanbase as a whole. Other than the Ink Tank on YouTube, I've never seen anyone discuss this film beyond a mention here and there. Getting into the story, the film takes place in Ben's hometown of Belwood, beginning with a police car chase through the city. As we get our first glimpse at how the film looks, I have to say it has not aged gracefully, nor do I think it particularly visually appealed at the time. Although maybe I'm going into that spoiled by a modern day era of animation that incorporates 3D elements like Puss in Boots and the Spider-Verse films. God, I would have loved if this had been done the same style as Spider-Verse. Anyway, back to the plot. The police are shooting a regular gun at a super high-tech tank of some sort. Joining the chase is the Rust Bucket with Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa Max, who make a slightly clunky jump to 3D. I found Ben and Gwen didn't quite transition as well as Grandpa Max. I think his model works a little bit better than theirs. I don't know if it's just me, but Gwen's voice sounds a little off here. The human models in this actually remind me a bit of Paranorman. The tank then grows spider legs and starts smashing up the city before Grandpa Max rams into it. At this point, I'm not getting used to how the faces look whatsoever. Grandpa Max decides to take on the tank by himself just with a gun, before Ben transforms into Upgrade. I really appreciate how much effort was put into translating the transformations into 3D, as well as how good the holograms on the Omnitrix doll looks. Now, they're not absolutely perfect, but I think the aliens in this film are much better suited to an entirely CG film than the human characters. Upgrade's textures are a little bit shiny for my taste, but that green glow really works. Speaking of that glow, Gwen's mana projections look fantastic. I love that they went for that purple look, sort of more like Alien Force and Ultimate Alien as opposed to Classic's blue. The way Upgrade moves is so well intentioned and the posing is just so great, but it just feels a little bit clunky. As Upgrade, Ben takes control of the tank before Gwen breaks it apart, nearly killing Grandpa Max. Ben times out before Gwen puts the blame on Ben for upgrading the tank in the first place. The intro is very reminiscent of Race Against Time and Secrets of the Omnitrix, just sort of panning through the Omnitrix, very a little bit Sam Raimi Spider-Man-esque. The pan of the city here is really great. I love the green lighting. It's quite obvious going to the scene that it's some sort of dream sequence. Ben's heat blast transformation tries to kill Ben, who looks pretty good other than the fire effect around his head. Forearms comes in attacking Ben. Forearms looks pretty fantastic. Proportionally he works. I feel a little over-textured, but it works. A very rigid looking stinkfly comes in. Again, the texture in the face is a little bit too much for me. Although the expression on him as he shoots goo out of his eyes is great. Diamond Head looks a little bit off. His head just looks a little bit too wide and too much like a pyramid. Wildmud attacks Ben next, looking not too bad at all actually. I love how many aliens they've incorporated so early into the film. I think that was really bold of them. Waybig springs out of the earth, grabbing Ben. We have this really amazing shot of all the aliens from that previous sequence looking up at Waybig, all looking really great here. It's revealed it was a nightmare, Ben fast asleep in the middle of class. Ben gets locked in a locker before transforming into Heat Blast, filling the school with smoke as he flies off, leaving burn marks in the cement as he walks through his house, leaving even more burn marks throughout the carpet in the house. The fire around Heat Blast's head still doesn't really work for me. It just feels a little bit too... I don't know, just a little bit too cut and paste. It doesn't quite suit the model. It doesn't feel like it's coming from Heat Blast. It just feels like an asset tagged on. We get the reintroduction of Ben's parents, Sandra and Carl. The Omnitrix shoots out this sort of green and purple energy, Gwen's mana and Ben's Omnitrix energy, Omni energy I think it's called, absorbing Ben's laptop into itself, which is a pretty cool effect. Ben gives Gwen a call before Tetrax appears, throwing a crystal projectile into Ben's floor. The pair end up waiting for Azimuth, who's supposed to be meeting them there. With more green and purple energy being emitted from the Omnitrix, Ben hits a truck while hoverboarding around, only to have a colour swap evil version of Waybig emerge from the truck. That colour swap really works well. The Waybig just roars at him. We get a mistransformation to Stinkfly. I'm pretty confident, I think only knows because of the ink tank, but I'm pretty confident there's a web browser game of Stinkfly versus Waybig. Tetrax and Ben end up fighting Waybig for about 30 seconds before Ben times out, accidentally absorbing Waybig into the Omnitrix. Tetrax tampers with the Omnitrix a little bit before saying there's a new setting on it. The two take off before a hole's torn in the side of the ship, sending Ben hurling towards Earth. Ben manages to turn into Diamond Head moments before landing. We cut to Grandpa Max and Gwen using her tracking magic. Once again, her magic looks fantastic. I think especially the glowing eyes work well in 3D. Rather than transforming back, Ben times out and goes straight from Diamond Head to Forearms. Turns out Ben crash landed just up the road from Stonehenge, being confronted by a blue galvanic mechamorph, who just immediately attacks Ben. This is a seriously creative action sequence. I'm amazed they managed to make it look this good in 3D. The mechamorph transforms into a new supersuit looking form. I really like this, it's a really great design. Feels very sort of Gundam inspired. The scene of Forearms holding onto the rockets is a lot of fun. They've done a really great job at making you feel the weight behind every single hit. The mechamorph mid-fight takes a moment and asks Ben what he knows about Azimuth before Ben times out again, now becoming Upgrade, confusing the blue mechamorph who doesn't realise it's still Ben. They get right back into it, teleporting to Brazil. Ben immediately gets taken out by an electrical attack as Upgrade. Teleporting again to the pyramids, Ben becoming Stinkfly and teleporting back to Belwood. It's revealed that what Tetrax was doing when he was tampering with the Omnitrix was setting it so that Ben never reverts to his human form, as a way of protecting him. Seems to work so far. Back to the fight between Ben and the Mechamorph. The Mechamorph demands Ben can tell him where he can find the Toku Star box, Toku Stars being Weibig's transformation. Tetrax works out that Azimuth was actually monitoring a malfunctioning Omnitrix. We get a flashback of Azimuth in his ship cloaking as the truck from earlier, before it's revealed that Azimuth was the one that was transformed into Weibig from earlier. It's not outright stated here, but Azimuth disappears and you very clearly see the evil Weibig appear. Tetrax and the others now confronted by the Mechamorph, who misunderstood the footage as Azimuth transforming, thinking it's Azimuth being killed by the Weibig. This brief action sequence between Tetrax and the Mechamorph is really good. There's something so great about how solid Tetrax is versus how fluid the Galvanic Mechamorph is. Ben returns home as Grey Matter, transforming back into Diamond Head before Grandpa Max picks him up. Once again attacked by the Mechamorph, they have an argument before being absorbed by the Omnitrix. Ben and the Mechamorph being linked together, trapped inside the Omnitrix's simulation of Diamond Head's homeworld Petropia. It's revealed that the Mechamorph is actually Azimuth's father, another Galvan who uses a Mechamorph suit of armor. Azimuth's father swears to take revenge against the Toku Star for killing his son, or at least that's how he sees it. Upon the realization the Omnitrix absorbed the Weibig and the group separately, the Weibig comes in attacking them. Grandpa Max tampers with the watch a bit, releasing everyone inside, including the evil Weibig, the group now confronting it in the city. The team works out pretty quickly that the Weibig is Azimuth. Ben comes in as Weibig in a really large-scale fight between the two, absolutely ruining the city, pile-driving the evil Weibig Azimuth through a building. Assumably an unpopulated city, you'd like to think. This would have worked so well in 2D animated, but they did a pretty good job. Ben tells Azimuth's dad the big plot reveal that the evil Weibig is his son. We get a bit of a slap fight between the two Toku Stars, destroying even more of the city. Gwen uses her magic to get in touch with Azimuth's mind, resulting in Azimuth turning into his normal Galvan form, who either looks really great in 3D, or at this point in the film I've kind of lost my mind and I can't tell what looks good and what looks bad. He explains the Omnitrix is overloaded with mana, causing it to absorb and transform everyone around it. Azimuth's dad takes off his Mechamorph armor, pretty embarrassed by his behaviour. We get a throwaway line about not messing with wearing the armor as it majorly pumps up the user's aggression. Great line to explain why someone as intelligent as a Galvan would act so irrational for the entire runtime of the film. At this point in the film, Ben's learned his lesson, and we get a little tease of Dr. Animo attacking the tree on his largest mutant frog yet. I have to say, I really ended up enjoying this film. The plot works well, the mystery is serviceable, I love the characters and the sequences, I think they're just so spot on to the characters they were in the classic series. I think the element really holding back this film was the visuals. I think the models for the most part don't really feel polished, specifically the humans. Like I said earlier, if this had been animated in the classic series style, I think it'd be just as beloved as Secret of the Omnitrix, if not more so. Thanks for watching.